you to our Wells Fargo Presents the Untold Stories collection, My Untold Google Plus Hangout. So we know how important storytelling is, and social platforms have been really described as the online beauty parlors and barbershops for the African American community. And the African American community has really come a long way in terms of the accomplishments and achievements and progress. And so when you add all that together, Wells Fargo put together this platform, which we're calling My Untold, to honor and celebrate the accomplishments and achievements of African Americans in a social storytelling movement. And today we're going to have a conversation with some really special guests that I'm going to tell you about in a minute, to talk about what it means to be first, and what it means to be first in the context of accomplishments and achievements, and particularly a lot around as it relates to family and as it relates to legacy. And so first, what I'd like to do is introduce you to our guest for today, starting with Fred Goodall. Fred, many of you know him as the Mocha Dad. And Fred has put together some amazing resources that helps men be better dads. And I think it's pretty amazing because Fred grew up without a positive male role model, and instead of sort of just stopping there, he put his energy and his resources into pulling together a place where men could come and learn how to be, sort of countering these negative stereotypes and how to build strong families and build strong men. And we can all agree that that's something that our African American community needs. And so you can see him quite often on Huffington Post and on NPR. And we're just really excited to have Fred Goodall joining us today, Mocha Dad. Hello, Fred.
Hello, Lisa. Thank you for having me, and thank you to Wells Fargo for giving us this opportunity to share our stories.
Well, you're welcome. We're excited to hear from you today. And then our other guests today are Lamar and Ronnie Tyler. Lamar and Ronnie are a husband and wife duo behind Black and Married with Kids. And what's so poignant about the combination of guests we have today is that they have put together the largest African American independent marriage and parenting site. The site has attracted over 6 million readers in just 6 years. They have been recognized as one of Ebony's 100 Power Couples. And they have actually taken their site from a blog to a multimedia company, Tyler New Media, and they actually employ over about 30 people, so it's really amazing that they have started something that already in a very short time has become a legacy that they're building. So they have 4 films under their belt, and they have a social media platform that has over 325,000 followers on Facebook. And one of the biggest accolades I can just say about them, though, that really aligns with Fred and his purpose is that they're good people. So they are a loving couple toward each other. They have a loving family, and they've put their intention behind providing resources for people to be better, stronger families. And they also really work hard to dispel the negative myths and turn it into something positive. And so I'd like to welcome Lamar and Ronnie Tyler joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Thank you to Wells Fargo for sponsoring this conversation.
Well, great. So why don't we jump right in? We talk about this notion about being first. And when you think about that, we remember a lot about our first in life. We remember our first love. We remember sometimes the first time, a lot of important firsts that happened in our lives. And so what was it that you were first in your family to do? And I'll start with Lamar and Ronnie. What are you known about being first in your family to do?
From my perspective, I think we're the first in our families to go full on in entrepreneurship and build something similar to what we built with Black and Married with Kids, and starting a business hopefully that provides a legacy not just for our children but for our children's children as well.
Definitely. I know definitely from my family, my father, he did some entrepreneurial things, but he also had a full-time job, and he never really stressed, doing things on your own, and it was more of, get out of get out of high school and go to college type of things and get a good job working for someone else. And so for us to be able to provide this example for our kids, I think is huge. It gives them another entire option of what they can do with their lives, another path to follow. If their passions don't necessarily align with going to college, I feel like that particular stress is going to be taken away from them. And I feel like I'm actually a lot more open-minded. I think when I left high school, my biggest focus was to go to college, but now that we are working together, I really feel that I'm more open-minded towards my kids really taking a step back and learning what's going to be best for them and knowing that they have different options.
Okay. Talking about options. And what about you, Fred? What have you been first in your family to achieve?
Well, for me, I was the first person in my family to graduate from college. I had a few cousins and an aunt who had gone to college, but because of different financial responsibilities or other issues they had to deal with, they weren't able to complete their college journey. So for me, it was really a big deal to go through the whole experience, to graduate from college. My mother, who was a single mother and she raised me, from the start, she always let me know, you're going to college no matter what. Don't you worry about the money. Don't you worry about any other issues. You're going to do it, and we're going to make sure that it happens. And just thinking about it right now, there are a lot of obstacles and roadblocks along that path that could have prevented me from graduating. I know for sure money was a big thing. In fact, one semester I even had to sit out because I didn't have the money to pay for it that semester. But through all kinds of things that came together, and certainly by my mother's encouragement and her faith and her continuing to push me, I was able to get my degree and become the first person in my family to graduate. And for all of my family, I think that was a significant milestone for us, because since then, a lot of my other cousins have gone to college, gotten advanced degrees. My sister went and got a master's degree. So I think that kind of opened up the door to let them see that this is possible, that this is something that can happen, and to really motivate them to continue their own educational journey and get through college and even get some advanced degrees.
So, Fred, what you're really talking about is this notion about intent, and clearly the thing that you accomplish, you're talking about being the first in your family to go to college. That's not something that you fall into. There has to be a clear level of intent around that. But I want to unpack a little bit how that seed and that spark of you actually seeing some other relatives in your family who had started college but hadn't persisted all the way through. So when was it that you had that aspiration, or was it that a driving force? How much was it that you actually wanted to be the first to not just go, but go all the way through and finish and get all the way through college? Was that something that was really an aspiration of yours, or how did that come to be? What was that actual seed or that spark for you?
I mean, it was an aspiration as far as I can remember. Just from a small child in elementary, my mother always emphasized, you're going to college, you're going to graduate from college, and make sure that happens and do what it takes. And she supported all my educational, any educational opportunity there was. She took me to the libraries, she signed me up for special classes, she did things with me during the summer, and sometimes these things were difficult for her to get done, but she made sure that those opportunities were available to me so that I can improve myself and continue to be a better student and have the opportunities that she didn't. Also, throughout my educational careers, I had a lot of very inspirational teachers who continue to motivate me and encourage me and let me know you can do this. This is something that can happen. Don't ever get discouraged by your circumstances, but just work hard and stay focused and go out there and do it. And because of that encouragement, because of their words, and certainly everything my mother did for me, that seed was planted, and it continued to grow and grow until finally I achieved that goal.
And Ronnie, so you spoke a little bit about options and maybe some different options for your children. So I want to come back to you and Lamar and ask a question about your intent and your planfulness in terms of thinking about the options of being entrepreneurs, and how you had that seed of aspiration, I'll use that phrase again, to be business owners?
I mean, for me, I think it was something like inherently in me where I wanted to be an entrepreneur. You know, my first business was in 6th grade, and I was cutting people's lawns. Me and my buddy partnered up. He was good at drawing, so he made the flyers. We took our lawnmowers and we canvassed the neighborhood, right? So I think since then, I've been in different business ventures, and I've always seen myself as an entrepreneur. So, you know, it's just been a journey getting to this point and reaching something that has been as successful as we've been as a business, but still having that larger vision, that larger goal of what we want to do. And then with our marriage, since we're doing it together, you know, marrying our visions together as well, with how do we both see this thing kind of manifesting and playing out at the same time.
Right. So, I mean, it's definitely been something that's been intentional. It's more intentional now. For me, like I said before, my father, he had a business when we were coming up. He had a carpet cleaning business. And my sister and I would help him out sometimes. But again, he also had, you know, a full-time job in the shipyard where we worked, where we lived. And so I always thought, you know, I'm going to go to college. And Lamar really exposed me to just being an entrepreneur. And I'm grateful for that because I just feel like my life has just taken on a whole new path. Like more options have been opened up to me. And as I see my kids growing up now and I see all of their different personalities, and you know, I'm thinking in my head, okay, this child needs to be an entrepreneur because they don't want to listen to anybody, you know. And before, I would have been worried, like, oh my gosh, how's my child going to survive if he can't listen to anyone? He just, you know, marching to his own beat, you know. But that's okay because that he can leverage that passion, his uniqueness into something that he can make money from and be happy. And so I'm really happy about, you know, these options and these examples that we're providing for our kids.
So those are some great sound bites. I love the thoughts about options and marrying your visions. And so for our listening audience out there, I want you to join the conversation and tell us on wellsfargo.com/myuntold or using the hashtag myuntold, how are you marrying your vision with your options to be the first at what it is that you want to do? Okay, so we're going to move on to our next question. And I'm going to start with you, Ronnie, since we have you here. You had talked about writing or speaking with your dad about your great-grandparents. I think I have these names right, Tommy and Mary Tina Robertson. If I have it wrong, please make sure I corrected it. Who had quite a large family, 12 children, and so that you and Lamar are actually some of the youngest in your family, so lots and lots and lots of family members. What would surprise your great-grandparents about what you all are doing today?
I just think the example that we're providing with our marriage and just the intent that we're putting into it in order to just actually leave a legacy of love for our kids. We definitely have a happy marriage. We're intentional about that. We're intentional about the example that we're setting, not only for our kids, but also for our community because we think it's important. And I feel like we do provide that example to a lot of our family members, even though they're older. Like I said before, I'm the youngest in my family, and Lamar is the youngest of all of his siblings as well. But we really feel like our marriage can be an example to them. And for my family in particular, I grew up with a lot of marriages around me. They weren't necessarily marriages where I saw a lot of affection, but I did see examples. I mean, there's always something positive that you can take from what you've seen in your families. So I saw examples of men being there. We had lots of kids in the family, and I saw examples of men working 2 and 3 jobs and things of that nature. So I always wanted to take that from that, you know, being there for your kids, supporting them and things of that nature, but then taking it up a level as far as us being intentional about our intimacy and our connection and showing that to our kids.
That's great. So Fred, on the conversation of grandparents and large families, you talked about driving down to Louisiana when you were younger in the summers and visiting your grandmother, and one of the things that you spoke about was that how she cooked. And this is something that you have kind of taken on as an adult and cooking some of her recipes, and that you've even mastered her gumbo. And so, but I think that you were very young though during these times, and so I don't know how much you may remember from the times that you sat around the kitchen table with her, but what would she be surprised to know about you now?
Yeah, my grandmother was a remarkable woman. In the time that she grew up, she had 9 children. Plus, she had to work in the fields, so her family had to go and pick cotton. So every day she had to wake up, feed her family, go out, pick cotton, come back, make lunch, go back out again, then come back and make sure the dinner's ready and everyone's taken care of for the night. Just to see how hard she worked was really motivating to me, that she could do all these things that she did. It was simply amazing to watch everything that she did. She never complained about it, and that she just did it because she knew that she had to take care of her family, and this was the way that she did those things. Today, she would be quite amazed at all of the opportunities that are available to us, mostly that I don't have to pick cotton. And really, that's what she worked hard for, to make sure that when her kids were older, that's not some career path they had to take. And certainly for her grandchildren, she wanted something much more for us than to have to do those types of things. Just to see where I've come to graduate from college, I worked at a Fortune 500 company where I was in an executive position. I've been able to work for myself, start my own business. She would be absolutely fascinated by all of these things. She would also be fascinated to see her great-grandchildren and a lot of the opportunities that they have. One year we had a birthday party for my daughter, and my wife and I were looking around at the table, all of her friends, and we told her, like, it looks like the United Nations in here. She has friends of all different races and ethnicities, and they were all sitting in our house together around the table, breaking bread together, and I don't think that's something that my grandmother would have ever expected could possibly happen. Certainly she didn't see it in her lifetime, so she would definitely be amazed that this type of interaction is available and happens regularly today. So just so many things. She would be so proud of us, and just know that all of her efforts paid off.
Yeah, Fred, just listening to you reminds me of sitting around my grandmother's table, and I would just say that you sound like the prayers and wishes of your grandmother come true. And what I hear in listening to you is this theme about sacrifice, and that certainly sounds like what your grandmother and your grandfather did. So tell me a little bit about what you have had to sacrifice and get into where you are at this station in life.
I mean, just for me, I'm not sure that I really have made a lot of sacrifices. I know people around me have made a lot of sacrifices to make sure that I've been successful. Certainly, my mother made many sacrifices. Having to work many hours, giving up things that maybe she wanted to do to make sure that I had opportunities. Setting aside some money to buy me things. I'm still amazed that when I was in middle school, my mother saved up enough money to buy me a computer because she had the foresight to see that this is something that's going to be important in the future. So she bought me this computer. She bought me programming, language books. She signed me up for computer classes. Had to wake up very early in the morning before she went to work to take me to these classes because they were before school. But so many sacrifices that she made to make sure that I was able to do the things that she wanted me to do to be successful. Just when I look at sacrifice today, certainly I'll do whatever it takes to take care of my family and make sure that my kids have many opportunities. But for me, I think things have been a lot easier than they were for my mother and certainly her mother. So there's not so much sacrifice that I see. It's just a conscious effort to make sure that opportunities are available, and I'm setting the right example for my family and for my kids and really for the whole community.
Yeah. So Lamar and Ronnie, I'm going to ask you a slightly different take on that question. And when you think about your family and the path that you've taken to entrepreneurship, Lamar, you talked about from a youngster, you kind of had the sales and marketing bone in your body. Have you always found that level of support and understanding from your family as you kind of pursued your entrepreneurial ventures?
You want to go first?
No,
okay. I mean, I think there are definitely like varying levels of support, right? And there are some people like my mother and our brothers that like show up and support and help do almost everything that we do, right? And help make sure that we have a support system in place that we can move forward with different projects and we can travel the way we do and all types of things. But there are other family members who we've done 4 films now. They've never been to any screening of any film. I don't know if they've even seen the movies on DVD, right? But I mean, that's fine. I think you have to realize, and it's something maybe I didn't realize it right away, but now we've been doing this for a little while, so you realize that a lot of times the people that support you most are people that don't even know you, and there are people who just connect with the vision that you have, or who connect with the mission that you have, and they see the bigger picture of it. And you would love for your friends and your family to always be on board with everything you're doing. But hey, the people who are, you thank them. You celebrate those. And if people are not on board with it yet, you keep pushing, because you can't let that deter you from your dreams, your hopes, and your aspirations.
Right. I mean, I definitely think that's the biggest thing that people that have a passion or a goal need to understand, is that people that love you are not necessarily always going to understand it or support it. That doesn't mean that they don't love you, but it's going to be up to you to continue with your passion, to continue with your goals the best way that you can. And I think the best way you can do, the best thing that you can do, is to show them by example, right? So show them the results, and a lot of times then they'll begin to understand and they'll begin to come on board. So just continue on and don't get disheartened if you find that people are not being as supportive initially. I think it's up to you to then show them.
Yeah. What I always like to say is that your dreams are your dreams, and they're not everybody else's. So, like Ronnie said, I mean, the best thing you can do is use that to fuel you and motivate you. Because believe me, when you reach a certain level of success, everybody will come around, and then you'll have like 3rd and 4th cousins acting like they grew up and y'all been hanging together forever, and people come out the woodwork. So, if you just reach high enough level of success, you don't have to worry about anyone throwing you shade or not coming around or whatever. Everybody will show up when they do. But in the meantime, just keep pushing forward and doing what you need to do, to reach your vision.
So that's I think I love that phrase, that your dreams are your dreams. You have to push forward. So for those of you out there who are listening and viewing with us, talk to us. Come and share with us on wellsfargo.com/myuntold using the hashtag myuntold. How are you pushing forward your dreams? Your dreams are your dreams, and share with us how you're doing that. So all of you have children. And are fortunate to be around the younger generations, and probably consider yourself part of the younger generation, I might So I'm curious to get your perspective on, Ronnie, you talked earlier about this notion about choice, and you talked about your children just really having a whole lot of options that maybe you might not have had, or you're not even, maybe you feel some kind of way about, they may take a different option because they do have different options than they had before. And so, everybody's worked really hard, and I mean everybody collectively, not just you all, but just sort of everybody's really worked hard to open up doors and open up opportunities for the younger generations. Do you think, first of all, that they appreciate the significance of being first? And given the broad range of opportunities that they have in front of them, how do we instill in them the significance and the importance and the value of legacy, and just kind of keeping that everything that everybody else worked for, a lot of things that Fred talked about, how people before him sacrificed and now it's a lot easier for him. How do we keep that just importance in front of our younger generations?
Right. I'm always impressed by young people that I see, and I can see that they really appreciate the things that they have, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's just, that young child is just on point, right? And you see those kids and you're so impressed. But I think for the most part that most kids eventually become appreciative. I think as a parent, it's just my responsibility to set the foundation, to lay the foundation. And so to not give up, even if you think that they're not listening or if they're not catching on, but to do my part in making sure that they do understand the legacy, making sure that they understand exactly what we're doing. So it's about being intentional, right? Okay, you know, Dad and I, we're doing these things, and here are the results, and allowing them to see that. So that involves communication and being intentional. And I really think that eventually it's going to click, and that they're going to have that foundation to fall back on. And so I'm not necessarily so concerned initially with whether or not I'm seeing the results right away. As long as it's not like disrespectful or anything like that. But I really feel like it's just our part to be intentional and be purposeful about what we're teaching our kids.
What about you, Fred? What are your thoughts?
I fully agree. I think for me, I always talk to my children about the opportunities that are available. Let them know that there are so many things they can possibly do, and to go ahead and pursue them. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to try things. I know sometimes a couple of my kids, they get a little bit timid about doing things because they may or may not be good at it, but I let them know, go ahead and try it. If you mess up, then you know that you can do something different. But I just want them to have this spirit that they can accomplish things because of the strides and the sacrifices that people before them have made. My kids spend a lot of time with their grandparents, and their grandparents always talk to them about what they went through, some of the experiences that they had, so that they can see that it's been a long journey to get my children to where they are. So that they never lose sight of what has happened in the past, so they can take that information and that knowledge and use it to be successful in the future. It's just about motivating them, giving them the information, and letting them see that there's a world of possibilities and support their dreams wherever you can.
So let's make it a little personal, because Fred, you've also talked about going back to your grandmother, how she wrote letters, I think, to your uncle who was in Vietnam, but a lot of those letters and things weren't saved. So even from a practical standpoint, how are we, or how are you as a dad and a part of your family keeping and preserving just your personal Goodall family memories?
We do a couple of things. I mean, obviously, the website Mocha Dad is really a journal that kind of chronicles my journey as a father, and it allows my kids to see what I was experiencing as a dad, some of the things that they may have gone through when they were younger, so they can always look back on that just to see where I was at a certain point of time, and also where they were. Also, every year, my wife and I, or actually my wife, because I don't really have a lot of input in it, but she puts together a hardcover book of our year as a family, and she's also put together books for each of our children individually throughout their whole elementary school career. So capturing all these, you know, we have these pictures on our phones all the time. Like, what are we gonna do with all these pictures? Well, she's actually taken a step to get those pictures off the phone, put it together into something tangible that we can hold on to and look back on and relive those memories and make sure that we have these things captured. So that's something that's so important for us. Also, for my kids, I bought them books, and this is really for them to talk to their grandparents about. But there's one for her grandfather, and I have one for her grandmothers. So essentially, this book has questions that my kids can interview their grandparents about what it was like when they were younger, and kind of have a conversation in a journal to capture some of their memories and some of the things that they went through. So my kids can also have that information, because sometimes we just lose so much information because we don't take the time to talk with the generations that came before us. I always tell my kids, if you want to know something, forget about going to Google. Call up your grandparents, because they actually lived it. They're the best Google you can find. They can give you some first-hand accounts and first-hand information. So use those resources whenever you can. But I always encourage everybody to talk to the older generations, capture all you can, write it down, make videos, make audio recordings, whatever you can, but preserve those, because sometimes they get lost and we can never get those back.
So, point of personal confession, I'm one of those people who has a lot of, well, first of all, I really don't actually take a lot of pictures, but the ones that I have stay in my phone until. And so, Lamar and Ronnie, I know you also have some really great tips on, how you preserve that family legacy. But you also have some great tips and touched on some of the things that Fred talked about in terms of having those conversations, and not just the good conversations, but asking for both sides of the story. So talk to us about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, definitely, having those conversations with your kids. I love what Fred just talked about, just about having the conversations. I can remember growing up, and there weren't a lot of conversations. Like, I had great parents. They were there, but they were working and being consumed with the day-to-day living. And so I felt like there are a lot of conversations that just weren't had, that just weren't said. And so I think for us, it's been a real, our purpose or our focus to be more intentional about having these conversations with our kids. Talking about the good and the bad, talking about all of the different scenarios that may come up. Just to prepare them. I always, I told my sister one time that I'm hoping that I pop up on my son's shoulder. Like, how you used to see the little devil or the little angel pop up on someone's shoulder? That's what I want to be, like, in his ear. Like, he's out there in the world, because we do have a 21-year-old. I really want him to remember all of the things I said, as if I'm sitting on his shoulder, kind of guiding him to what he should be doing and how he should be doing things. And so, so yeah, that's important for us.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, I think it's important also because people love to tell the good parts of the story, but to have the tough conversations as well. We run into so many couples who are repeating a cycle, and they don't know how to break the cycle. And these are things that their parents may have already figured out. And they'll say, hey, we're going through money troubles, and I remember my parents going through money troubles, and we came out of it, but I don't know what they did to come out of it. And maybe now they're not around, or they're not able to actually tell me those things, right? So when we talk to couples, we share with them how they should have these conversations with their children on an age-appropriate level, but just being able to share with them and, and some of these things, you can kind of break some of these cycles that happen from generation to generation, because the more information we can pass down, then they're equipped and ready to handle different challenges when they arise.
Right. I mean, I just want to get back on that. It's important. I think a lot of times parents try to avoid the difficult conversations, or even some of the challenges or the failures that they've had. But I really feel like it's good to share, as Lamar stated, to be intentional about breaking those generational cycles. I know for me and my parents, we all had kids young. Even me, I had my son. He's 21 now, and I look like I'm about 21 right now. But no, but seriously, he's 21 now, and I even had him when I was an undergrad in college. And just to talk to him about, I even had a conversation with him. This is how old I was when I had you. This is how old your grandma was when she had, your uncle, and so on and so on and so on. And just to talk to him about, decisions and what that meant for our lives. It's not that we didn't want them or anything like that, but just to be conscious about, when you have kids, when you want kids, you want to do with your life. So just being more intentional, and I think if more parents can do that, you can start to break some of those generational, cycles in your families.
Yeah. Well, I love what both of y'all are saying. It's really important to be very transparent, and both on blackandmarriedwithkids.com and on Mocha Dad, great resources for families on the topics that we're talking about. And so I just want to make sure that people know those things. So I'm going to ask one final question, which I think is very related to the conversation that we're having, and that is, what do you all want your children to be first at? So when you think about legacy building, when you think about all the things that you all have done in terms of first, or things that you persisted to, or you've seen your family even break cycles on, what is it that you want for your children to be first at? Who wants to start us off?
Well, for me, I don't know if I necessarily am looking for them to be first at things, because it's 2015, and we're still having firsts in the African American community, and that's a little bit concerning to me. But I want them to know that for any opportunity that's out there, that they can do it. There's nothing that's stopping them, especially focus on this with my daughter, because being an African American girl, there are so many things that society tries to put on her. I just want her to be strong and confident and know that she can compete on any level globally with anybody. That there's nothing at all that she can do. I want my sons to just know that they can be strong men and have strong families and certainly have careers and do whatever it is that they feel as if they want to do without any restrictions. And these are the hopes and dreams that I have for my kids. If they're the first at doing something, that's fantastic. But if not, I just want them to be happy with the choices that they make the right choices, and continue to do what they believe is the right thing.
That's great. Thank you, Fred. And Lamar and Ronnie?
I just want to leave. We always talk about leaving a legacy of love, and we want our children to know that healthy, happy, productive relationships can happen and do happen in the African American community. We want them to know it because they saw it firsthand in their own home. So then they have in their mind that they can have the same thing, hopefully, that they see growing up. And also, I think through our business, we want to leave a legacy of what hard work looks like, what determination looks like, what reaching your goals looks like, and that you can set out with a vision for something and accomplish something bigger than anything you could have dreamed of. So hopefully we try to, even now at this age, incorporate them into the business in different ways. We have the smaller kids, packaging up stuff sometimes, or, helping out at events just to show them what goes into entrepreneurship. So that, we want to leave a legacy of wealth, but we want to leave love and hard work and so many other things as well.
Well, I want to...
I totally agree. Of course, I would love for them to be the first billionaires, hey. But other than that...
I would love for us to be the first billionaires.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I don't want them to... I just totally agree with you.
Well, I want to thank Lamar and Ronnie Tyler and Fred Goodall for joining us today on our first Google On Air Hangout with Wells Fargo, celebrating the My Untold platform. And I would invite you all who are listening today to come and speak to us on wellsfargo.com/myuntold using the myuntold hashtag and tell us, how you're leaving a family legacy. This has been a great time, and I thank you for your participation. This is Lisa Frison with Wells Fargo signing off.